Hello, Danny here from Danny's DIY Shop. Today we're going to run through one of the most common faults you can get at home with a toilet. Not only that, but I'm going to show you a very simple trick to work out which part of your toilet is causing the problem. And then another video, how to fix them. So one of the most common faults is that when you flush the toilet, water carries on coming out of the cistern into the bowl and it does not stop. Now, not only can water leak out into your toilet bowl, but if you have an external overflow, so that's a pipe going outside through your wall, it could also be going out of there instead for the same problem. So we have two components in a toilet cistern. There is a fill valve and a flush valve. Now, both components can cause this fault, but how do you know which one it is? Well, to do this, you don't even need to open your toilet. The simple answer here is to flush the toilet and take note of what happens. If you flush the toilet and while the cistern is refilling with water, the trickling stops, your issue is with your fill valve. If when you flush the toilet, empties all the way down and then it is refilling, water is still trickling out while it's refilling, then the problem is with your flush valve. Now, what's the difference between a flush and a fill valve? So a flush valve is essentially a bung in the bottom of the cistern. And when you flush the toilet, that opens up and allows all the water in the cistern to flush down into your toilet bowl. When the pressure reaches a certain level, it will then close itself. When one of these is faulty, or there's a split in the seal, it won't cause that seal at the end, so water will carry on trickling through that bung, and that's what causes your trickling. Now, a fill valve is essentially a float valve, and what that will do is detect how full of water your cistern is and whether the valve needs to open to allow water back into your cistern. So after you flush, all the water comes out. Your fill valve recognises this by the float dropping. It will then fill. Your float valve will come all the way to the top, wherever it's set, and when it reaches its top, it will then close the valve. If that valve is damaged, when this float reaches the top, it will not close the valve, therefore again trickling water into the bowl. So let's flush this toilet and identify which of the two problems we have. So we have our trickle and our cistern is full. So if we flush the toilet, we'll see it is flushed. And we're now going to, there we go, straight away, look, you can see the trickling has stopped. That means that our problem is not with our flush valve, as our flush valve is sealed. So our flush valve is sealed correctly, and our fill valve is now filling up the cistern, and when it reaches the top, I imagine it will then go into overflow because it won't turn off. Let's wait for that. I can hear it getting full. And there we go. So it hasn't turned off, it's carried on filling and operated at our overflow. So now we know it's our fill valve, we can replace that fill valve. It's the easiest component of the two to replace. It requires very little effort, whereas the flush valve requires the dismantling of your toilet. So check out the next video to show you how to replace the fill valve.